Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the VoxWork podcast. I am one of your hosts, Asmogan, and these are my co-hosts.
I'm Nathan X 2000. Thank you for having me back on, you beautiful gentlemen.
Of course.
And I'm Nicho 40K. Hi.
I have my two wonderful gentlemen here. And today we're going to be jumping into a fairly meaty topic, that being the advantages versus disadvantages for Warhammer 40,000 going/being mainstream. So, who wants to open this can of worms?
Nicho, do you want to go first, mister?
Okay, shall I go with the... You know what? Let's start off with a bit more advantages, before we get into the really meaty disadvantages. So, the advantages of 40K being mainstream. 40K in the spotlight, we can reach more people who have never known about it. Perhaps we will find someone who, someone who actually genuinely gives it a try and genuinely likes it and genuinely wants to get into the lore. So I think that is a disadvantage for it having a bit more of a reach in general. Also, it being somewhat mainstream does, depending on how you look at this, it does make GW more money. Yeah, Nathan, you want to go next?
Your thoughts really did, leave you there, didn't they?
So, okay, I suppose let's start with the advantages, because, I don't want to be a negative Nancy about it all. It genuinely would have some good aspects. Like you mentioned, Nicho, it's kind of like, it's casting, a big net out. And although it would bring a lot more people into the hobby, sadly, that net is very indiscriminate. So it wouldn't be attracting certain types of people if it's more so the mainstream and GW do try and appeal to more people, from different demographics. It's going to attract the people that were not with 40K in general, like the soul of the franchise, the grimdark.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose that's one of the disadvantages. No, the advantages in this case would be it would bring a, there could be a chance everyone it brings in, I mean, as unrealistic it is, there could be a chance that everyone brought in could be major fans of the franchise. We can get more people on board. More people equals more money means GW might dedicate more sort of projects with 40K, start leaving Age of Sigmar behind, dedicate a lot more stuff to 40K. We could get more 40K games, movies, because there's the market for it.
It could also potentially change GW's obsession with pushing the Ultramarines. I mean, who knows? Maybe.
I'm not sure about that because it's the whole chicken and the egg thing. Like, how do you think GW would advertise the Imperium or to more people in the more demographics? They're going to use the Ultramarines to do it.
Yep. Send them the blueberries.
Yeah, they already have the blueberries front and center for pretty much anything to do with the Space Marines. Very rarely do we have any other sort of chapter, representation.
Yeah, but I do think, though, that because obviously you have, say, Cadians. They are the more human side. That's easier to sell to an audience. Maybe with the more exposure that actually, maybe they could become the poster boys instead of the blueberries. But sure, I know that. I know that. I know the argument is obviously for Space Marines because they are the ones that tend to sell the most. And also, I mean, they do look the coolest. Well,
yeah.
Depends on
I was gonna say, I thought
Space Marines. I didn't mention the blueberries look that cool.
I thought you were only on about the Space Marines initially, Nicho, because hopefully they do start with the Imperial Guard. That'll get a lot more people on board. The fact that, hey, this is a universe full of squishy humans like you and me, and they're battling untold horrors.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like that. As much as I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, I'm pretty much in agreement with Asmo as the fact that they will push it with Ultramarines if Space Marines are going to be the thing they're throwing at everyone.
I mean, if you don't if you don't believe that, with the growing fame over the last 5 years, let's just look at that, and let's say that a lot of that wasn't actually going mainstream quite yet, which I would say, for me, the final line that needed to be crossed for us to be consider 40K mainstream was mainstream representation, to use a term that's often used, sadly, these days, but using it appropriately. Like, for me, something to be mainstream, it has to be referenced in the popular media and zeitgeist. Like, television shows and movies and like, mainstream products that are consumed by the biggest chunk of audiences, normies, on the regular. So, for example, Fortnite is a great example of everything that has become mainstream because it literally drags in everything that has some kind of mainstream popularity and has some kind of cultural significance or quote unquote cultural significance. 40K is not in Fortnite, but now it's in Call of Duty, and that just happened. For me, that line needed to be crossed before I'd say 40K had become mainstream. It's definitely grown more popular over the last few years. But just focusing on the growing popularity over the last 5 to 6 years, when we look at how they've moderated and handled the advertising aspect of 40K, the tabletop game, and even with some of the other secondary media, what is usually front and center every time? Ultramarines. Ultramarines, Ultramarines, Ultramarines. Everywhere. Constantly. They're on every box. They're on every marketing scheme. They're the cover of every latest edition's animated trailer on YouTube. They are the primary and only used advertising mechanism for the entirety of the hobby. And they have been for decades, but in particular, when they had an opportunity to deviate from it strongly over the last 3 to 4 editions, they've chosen staunchly not to. Despite the fact that majority of the community have said, vary it up. Doesn't even need to be Space Marines, but if you absolutely have to do Space Marines, maybe try a different chapter for an edition. And they don't. And they haven't, and they continue not to. And I don't think going mainstream is going to change that. They're still going to push the blueberries. They're still going to push them and Space Marines and that aesthetic, because that is always what has been used, and that is what has always been perceived to work. They're afraid of change. Even the small changes, objectively, as that one would be.
True. I did actually think one thing that you mentioned was interesting, that when, popular media tends to reference stuff, like how Star Wars used to be, referenced in like other media and stuff like that. And how, technically speaking, if I'm carbon dating myself a little bit, I mean, even Halo was referenced, to the normies here and there. You had some TV shows mentioned, there were some stuff like that. With 40K, where would you even begin? I mean, because you have the
where would we begin with this reference in popular media?
I mean, because I suppose the Emperor, maybe.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You know what? I'm talking about when it will start to get, like you mentioned, like things being referenced in popular media.
Yeah, and 40K hasn't until basically
but
just the other day.
I'm kind of wondering, like, the repercussions, though, a little bit, but that's technically... You know what? Again, my thoughts are all over the place, because this honestly is it's getting me in all directions. Sorry.
Like I said, the advantages of it being mainstream is it'll bring in a lot more money, bring in a lot more focus, and we would see a rise in content for like I said, games, movies, TV shows. We potentially also, the lore could move a lot faster, because with a growing sort of modern day audience, they wouldn't kind of, I mean, it depends how you like your lore done. But I think they would kind of move it along quicker to keep a lot of people engaged. Because I don't think a lot of people would stick around if they were like, oh, the lore's not going to be edited for like a month when like a novel comes out, or like maybe in several months when like a new campaign gets introduced. Like, do you know the one they did with I think it was one of the Wars of Armageddon, like that was basically going to be decided by like a bunch of in-game player battles, like in real life. And whoever won more, like, would be the lore deciding winner. Stuff like that. So we could see a speed up of the franchise and speed up of the lore and the tales from the 40K sphere, But also, that's also a double-edged sword. Because if the law speeds up, then they might not take the time with the law. I mean, I'm not suggesting that they care for the law anyway. Again, we spoke about it several episodes where, the end and the death, part 3. There's Erda. There's the origin of the Space Marine's name, fucking... What's his name? You're like fucking John Astarte.
Do you love Madame Custodes?
I don't know what her first name is, but I know her last name was Astarte.
It's Astarte. Yeah, it's kind of a dry subject getting into the advantages. I see.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to like formulate a few in my head, like more specifics.
True, and I appreciate the effort. Though,
yeah.
Shall we go into the disadvantages?
Well, I mean, like I've got another advantage to mention now that I think
Okay.
about it.
Okay.
So, another one of the advantages is the fact that, and it kind of goes off my last reason, is the more people you bring into the hobby, is it's a lot more advantageous for the people that are already painting the miniatures, going to games workshops, having games. Because I'm not sure if you've noticed, but there's a few 40k players out there. I'm sure you know a few, both yourselves and anyone who's like listening. There are some 40k players that are kind of isolated.
Mm-hmm.
They're sort of very isolationist. They don't talk to anyone. They're very introverted. So the more people you bring into the hobby, the more likely people like that tend to like find people, like find friends, stuff like that. The same way that I found you two. Because through 40k, I found Arch. Through Arch, I found Asmo. And through Asmo, again, I found all of you. So.
But Nathan.
True.
What? Go on.
You're telling me that people who collect unassembled plastic toys that they have to assemble with super glue, plastic glue, cement glue, whatever you use, paint them themselves, spend hours carefully with every single brush stroke, filling in materials and details and lines, learning carefully how to do all these things for hours on end, while all the while to do so spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars, are introverts?
I mean, a few of them, if a lot of them are social butterflies, I hear, but you may have like the one or two, social outcasts. So I don't know.
All those hours carefully learning how to paint an eyeball the size of the tip of your nail. Yeah, that's really gonna help you to hang out with buds at the bar, or pick up chicks at a club, or like you just rare to go. It's like, hey, your buds show up in the limo, go, yo man, let's go to the club, let's hit it up, and then you're like, dude, I gotta paint this iris.
It's like, bruh, have you read this Black Templar lore?
Just give me a second, dude. I gotta assemble this Mauler fiend.
Come on, you have got to imagine that somewhere in California there's a bunch of 40k people that genuinely talk like that and like hanging about with like a bunch of surfer dudes painting.
Yeah, but like they're the
Imperial Guard and Dark Angels together.
Those people are the minority. I'll tell you that right now. There's nothing wrong with admitting that, but like in this community, in this fandom, shit ton of us are fucking introverted weirdos. It's like the draw. It's like, what, you telling me I can spend hours of my life occupied without having to hang out with people? Sign me up.
Well, I mean, using your own community as an example, mister, 40k has brought, 40k was the vocal thing that brought us, or the focal thing that brought us all of us together. Introverts tend to congregate around other introverts as long as those introverts are the same sort of flavor, and they kind of mesh along. Not every introvert's going to get along with an introvert. Not every extrovert's going to get with an extrovert. Some are competitive. Some are just like chill with being by themselves.
Yeah, I would say, like we're probably a good pocket example of that. I'm an introvert by nature, massively. Nathan, you're more of an extrovert, and Nicho, you strike me as also being an introvert like me.
Yeah.
But all three of us get along great and banter and joke around and have a good time. So I'd say we're probably just the three of us are a great example of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That
It's in the minority. So.
by that same token, though, I would point out though that when it comes to like the miniature side of the hobby, you as an extroverted individual, Nathan, don't do that much. You do it partially on the side, like you said, but how many miniatures do you paint per every 6 months even, and stuff like that, versus an introvert like me.
Well, maybe you're putting too much emphasis. Like, okay, I may be more of an extrovert than you, but very, very, very slightly.
Okay.
Very slightly more extroverted. I'm not actually that extroverted.
Says the man with a woman in the other room who's deeply in love with him.
Hey, listen, I got lucky. Like introverts that just managed to find each other on in a crowd full of autists. Like our autistic flavors just managed to mesh in the correct way at the correct time, and now it's just two goobers hanging out.
I just kind of love it. It's like an ice cream parlor. It's like, yes, I like this particular autistic flavor and this one, and can we mesh them together?
I'll use this opportunity to advertise my social media. Yeah, if you guys want to come on to my Discord, just let me know. I got a public Discord, and you can message me on like Twitter and other places. And depending on if you're a cool person, might let you in on my private Discord. And my private Discord is starting to act as a great meetup place between individuals.
Yes.
Potentially, you might find your loved one on Asmo's Discord community. Like. Who knows?
You definitely might find your. Yeah, you definitely might find your loved one. Although, given some of the people that I know, the fact that if they listen to this and what, he's with a woman in our space, so throwing fucking pitchforks and just torches at him, he dares consolidate with the opposite sex. That filthy fucking tit having breeder. How dare he? Gross. He has touched a vagina. He has broken the code.
Well,
You're banished.
If that's the line, then you also might want to unsubscribe from me, because I've touched the vagina and boobs. It's great. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Oh yeah.
I'm cutting half of that up.
Yeah, just cut the whole bit with me earlier. Anyway.
I'm gonna leave that in out of spite.
No. No.
Okay.
Anyway,
leave my stuff in, you goober. I'm very passionate.
So disadvantages. Oh boy, who wants? Asmo, you want to go first?
I mean, as Asmo said, one of his advantages here.
Oh,
I think I've said one of my disadvantages of it going mainstream.
Yeah, because to be fair, I think we should go advantages then disadvantages, because kind of keep it layered.
Yeah. Advantages going mainstream. I don't have very many. Generally speaking, especially with a hobby that's like this, with the community that already exists with it, there's a lot of negatives I could point out, disadvantages. When it comes to positives and advantages, a lot of the advantages I could bring up, you could also say are already currently in play with it, or have been in play with it without it going mainstream. The exposure aspect. I could bring that up for it going mainstream, but it was already getting exposure without going, again, by my definition of mainstream, which is starting to get popularly referenced in big, popularly consumed media in the cultural zeitgeist. Things like Fortnite, things like Call of Duty, things like the latest Hollywood big blockbuster film, things like that referencing 40K. That's when, in my opinion, that's the line you have to cross to start considering something truly mainstream. And, with Call of Duty starting to get skins, and now in my mind, I'm like, it's a matter of time before Fortnite starts getting Space Marine fucking customizations if Call of Duty's got them.
I mean, to be fair, 40K has been referenced in a lot of modern day media, even well before Call of Duty.
Like what?
Did you not see South Park?
Right. South Park did reference it. That is a fair point to bring up.
Although Family Guy did a small gag with.
Didn't they only do that in the latest season though of South Park?
Yeah, they did. But they also like I think they're keep doing it. So what else has been referenced? Trying to think now.
Those are the only like examples I could think of.
I mean, at least before Call of Duty.
Yeah, like
The most normie of all games.
Call of Duty,
The most tasteless.
South Park, and both of those. Well, Call of Duty just this like past couple of weeks / month, and South Park like 4 or 5 months ago, in their like latest season. And to be fair to South Park, they cover stuff that's just starting to go mainstream as it goes mainstream. Like PewDiePie got a fucking episode on there. So, South Park tend to be ahead of the curve in that regard.
Yeah. What other advantages? Yeah, more opportunities for games. Hopefully, we can get more coverage of other chapters. You know, maybe. You know what? It'd be awesome. It'd be awesome if we got a game that was kind of similar to Space Marine, but instead of the Blueberries, it would cover the Black Templars or something like that. Because that actually, I can sort of see how that could do well.
Well, I mean, through the exposure, yeah, we could hopefully get a game like that. I mean, to be fair, like, from there, like, you could just suggest, like, a bunch of games, like, I don't know. Like, one that I've always had on my mind is a Sniper Elite game, if any of you two have played that.
Oh, yeah.
But imagine that was, like, as a Vindicator, or, like, a Hitman-style game, but with, like, a Calidus assassin.
Yeah.
There's,
like
like,
So many
off the top of my head.
people would get killed because they would constantly turn off the disguise to see the skin tight outfit with the boobs in the ass.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I think I'm in a safe spot. All right, let me turn off the disguise. Oh yeah. Oh shit, she got caught. Head cut off. Damn it.
She got caught. What?
I just wanted to see the booba for like a minute. Now my high score is ruined.
I couldn't 360 no scope that bitch. Yeah, I also think someone would argue for like an Assassin's Creed style game for the assassins, though.
Wouldn't mind, but I definitely question as to who the fuck would make that game.
Because if it's Ubisoft,
Fuck Ubisoft.
No, just I don't want Ubisoft anywhere. I don't want them anywhere near 40K. I don't care if they have maybe even done stuff in the past. I don't care. Just get your French little butchy me wee. Get your hands on 40K.
Oh shit! Hang on. No, sorry, I forgot that reference. Do you know the show Archer?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I do.
I've probably seen clips of it. It sounds familiar.
Yeah. There's a character in it called Cyril, and like he just becomes like this big megalomaniac dictator. And he said that he got all his tactics from playing Warhammer when he was younger. It's a fairly big. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's.
That's
fairly big.
That's a fairly loosey-goosey reference, though.
But he still says Warhammer strictly. He doesn't say like from sci-fi shows. He says Warhammer directly.
True. That feels like one of those like specific reference jokes that are meant to appeal to a specific audience. Though I find it interesting Archer would do that. I can't imagine a lot of people who watched Archer whenever that joke happened got the reference. Because didn't that show stop airing like in 2010? 2011?
Archer.
How old is it?
No, it says 2009 to 2023.
Oh shit, it's still going?
Huh.
Well, I mean, ended last year, but yeah.
Dog.
That's I mean, it's fairly big. It's a fairly big show.
Yeah, I've never watched it.
I mean, I need to watch more of it because I've only seen the first few episodes of season 1. What are the advantages? We could probably get better quality animations. That would be a great.
Good shot, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because because we could get more, like I suggested before. But yeah, no, you bang on. You know, we could get more money, more dedicated funds towards the projects that we already do have, and whatever animations or films that they do put out will be increased. Well, hopefully they'll be increased in quality, and hopefully they'll pay enough the fucking writers to do a decent job on, like, you know, the Rings of Power and stuff like that.
Yeah. Rings of Power. Don't mention that. Don't never. That is a cursed name.
Burn your soul.
It burns my soul.
It burns us. It burns us.
So if I said like the Rings of Power, like, do you get that fucking flashback that Bilbo does when like he's got the Eye of Sauron on him? It's like flashes into your head.
I get the same. No. Wait, that would be too bad. No. Too bad of a reference. I get the same, like, I get the bad feeling like Spider-Man gets the Spidey sense, just like, what the fuck? No.
Somebody's mentioned something to do with Amazon. My cringe senses are tingling.
Yeah. Then, okay, if the video games are gonna be covered, if better quality animation, because I do know that there are, you know, there's always bands that are inspired by various stuff. I mean, how many friggin' bands are fans of Conan, which I've been getting into lately? There's so many. And to get them inspired by 40K, I mean, I wouldn't mind. You know, I mean, because Warhammer is so metal. When you think about it, it is so metal.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, metal by what standards? Is it modern day metal, or is it metal from back in the day?
I would say. I mean, the thing is, I kind of feel like it's kind of. It can sort of. It can be from back in the day, but also now, because it depends. I lost the plot there. But. Yeah, it's a very, you know, it's very heavy metal inspired. It's very. What else can I say? Edgelordy.
This episode's gonna be a bitch to edit.
Yes. Just.
It's not anyone's specific fault, but I think we've all like kind of scatterbrained.
Yeah, I mean, trying to find advantages for it going mainstream is just kind of difficult. Because again, 40K is such a niche hobby. For it to go mainstream, it kind of hurts, you know.
I think the main problem with like talking about this is like we're all looking for multiple specifics because we're trying to have like a lengthy, in-depth conversation about this. But I think when you boil it down, what are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? The advantages of 40K going mainstream: more exposure leading to more community, hopefully leading to more money flowing into GW, which ideally would be used to give us more models, give us more product, give us more stuff, and because of the increased traffic, it would never happen, but theoretically, they might lower prices because now they're making up for it in sheer volume of sales.
That was going to be the next thing I was going to say, but then again, you know, would you really trust GW to lower the sales on anything?
That's like mythological.
That's a fever dream.
That's a fever dream. But that's how you boil down the advantages. Boil down the disadvantages. What are the disadvantages? Going mainstream gets more exposure, and that's exactly also the problem. If it gets more exposure, it gets more focused by the woke, or not just the woke, but any political ideological group that wishes to use it as a soapbox on which to yell at everyone on what to think, feel, and believe. More of those people will flood into the hobby and start demanding changes and alterations and molestations done to it by the very creators, GW themselves, which with enough pressure they will eventually do. The reason they haven't caved in the female Space Marine thing so far is it's still just barely niche, although just going mainstream now. And so they haven't had that many voices really yelling at them for that kind of change outside of like Twitter and Reddit. But like real world sales, real world people have made it quite clear to them that that's not the majority of their audience. The majority of their audience don't want those changes. So that's the only reason GW haven't done it yet. The moment it goes mainstream and it gets even more of those people louder than ever pushing this shit, it will happen tomorrow. They will break. Because integrity has never been GW's strong suit. About anything. So, that's how you can boil down the advantages versus disadvantages. Really. The biggest advantage is the biggest disadvantage. More exposure.
Shall we just... I don't know, do you have any other advantages before we get into the disadvantages, or shall we just cave in and get right to it?
You're right to what?
Get right to the disadvantages.
I just boiled down both.
Well, I mean, just like, you know, there's a lot of disadvantages if it would go mainstream. Like, a lot more, to be fair. Because, depending on how exactly it does go mainstream, although we could get more content, like I'd mentioned before with the advantages, the content could be more watered down and of less quality. Because remember the period of time when GW started whoring out its license to anybody who agreed to make a video game about it?
Yep.
And the quality of games that came out that were just even remotely related to 40k, like, they were dog shit.
Absolutely terrible.
That very same thing could happen to, like, the majority of 40k if it then starts going more mainstream or exposure. They're trying to pump out a lot more content. It'll basically follow the same thing that's happening with Marvel movies. They're pumping out a shit ton of them, but because people will then indulge in the content, they'll become a lot more unsatiated. So they just pump out more and more, I think it'll just get watered down over time with what it offers. I mean, obviously I don't think the tabletop will change much because that's just a set system. People then just buy the models. But in terms of, like, shows, games, movies, which I mean, they've not really explored the movie aspect of 40k, at all, bar like from a few old relics. But I can't imagine it'll come out the gate swinging.
I guess it would depend on, like, how much we lean into, like, fan-made content. Because it's fan-made movies.
Yeah, and then they were threatened with a friggin' lawsuit by GW. Either work for us, or we're gonna sue you to oblivion.
Yeah, but on the lines of, like, exposure and stuff, and, like, mainstream media, like, recognition, I think we can go into, like, the fan content aspect for that. Because something going mainstream, in fact, has more to do with how the fans interact with it than it does how the company that controls it does. Like, in fact, 40k is the best example of this. Because what has boosted 40k's popularity over the last 5 years? What are, the biggest things?
The animations.
Well, specifically, Astartes, the animation from Sayama Peterson, and Bricky from Adeptus Ridiculous. When he made his video on his channel showcasing the hobby. That video blew the fuck up. So those two pieces of media made by fans did more to bring in new people and more eyes on 40k than anything GW has done in the last 20 to 30 years.
Would you not count, like, TTS among those ranks as well?
I mean, isn't that more for the super fans?
No.
I can
TTS...
imagine it. I can imagine it's brought in a lot of casuals as well.
I'd say it's like this. Like, TTS is like that B movie to, like, the Hollywood blockbuster film that is, like, Bricky and Astartes, if that makes sense. Like, on terms of, like, level of what they've done for it, TTS did bring in a lot of people and get people to ask the question, what is 40k? But it didn't, it mostly became a community-loved thing if you were already in 40k. I don't think it brought as many people in as either the Astartes animation or Bricky's video. Because both of those were built specifically to bring people in. Well, Astartes was meant to be an homage to 40k, but because of its quality, it was lined with getting people to get interested and ask the question, what is 40K? TTS was mostly about referencing and making jokes about things that fans who are already fans of 40K would be able to laugh and enjoy about. So, yeah, people would watch TTS on YouTube and stuff and ask the question, what is 40K? But it wasn't exactly as geared for that as the other two examples.
No, it wasn't gay, but I'd argue that it did, bring in a decent amount of casuals because, the animation, like, although it wasn't nowhere near as the quality of Astartes was, the quality was actually pretty good, the writing, the voice acting, the amount of work that Alpha Booster did put in for, like, the animations and stuff.
Yeah.
And it had a lot more of casual humor, so even if you didn't understand a lot of 40K, you could still, like, at least follow the episode, and then retroactively go back and then look in the comments, basically say, what did he mean when he said this joke, or like, yada, 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 yada.
Yeah, I'm not saying it didn't bring anyone in. It brought in a lot of people, and before Astartes came onto the scene, or Bricky's, intro to 40K videos, I'd say it definitely was the source of, like, normies getting in. Again, though, it's still, like, a fan-made example. But after Astartes and Bricky's videos came out, I'd say it's become, due to just how focused Bricky's video in particular was about getting people in, whereas that was more tangentially getting people into it. I'd say it was, to put it like this, TTS is like the old grandpa telling you stories about the army, whereas Bricky's video is like that really hyper, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger advertisement for the U.S. military, right? One is super bombastic, energetic, and designed to get you interested. The other one is telling you stories, and that might lead you to being like, okay, I'm interested in this thing, let me ask more questions about it. But it may not necessarily be the goal of the story, right? Like, that's like my best way of trying to explain, like, how I see it. It's like they both can result in the person asking, the consumer of that media, asking the question, what is 40K, and then going to look into it and then becoming a fan. But when one is so geared towards the very purpose of that person asking that question at the end, whereas the other one is, the purpose isn't to entertain, it's to make you laugh and make you kind of, enjoy the media, and also on the side of it, potentially get you interested in the things it's about and referencing. One is not as, with lack of a better wording, not as great at that specific goal of getting people into the hobby as the other. They both both have, and they both deserve credit for doing so, but I think one has done more in that regard and to that effect than the other.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. But at the same time, I'd argue, like, Bricky's, like, one video,
4.
doesn't kind of, well, sorry, go on.
Right, yeah, it's 4 videos.
4 videos dedicated to 40K.
Let me bring them up. So he had 2 going over every faction, just explaining them in meme ways. Every single Warhammer 40K faction explained part 1 and part 2. Both were 50 minutes. Then he did the timeline of 40K, which was only 5 months ago. And he also, I know he did another video.
The Legions, right?
No, he did a video about, like, the tabletop specifically. Because the every 40K faction explained was from a lore standpoint, and then he did a video about, like, the tabletop. It's like okay, now that you've seen my videos about the factions, let me tell you about getting into, like, the miniatures and stuff. So he has, like, 3 to 4 videos specifically about getting people into 40K. And
I thought you only meant, like, he'd only done, like, one video. Like, one dedicated 40K video.
Oh, no, several. If you include his couple of his VODs talking about him going to tournaments to play 40K as well, if you include those, he's made over half a dozen, maybe a bit more. Alright, so after 9 years of being out on the internet, If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device, episode 1, has 2.4 million views. Now, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very, very good. Even after 9 years. Most videos, like I have videos that are 7 years old that barely have 1,000. So that is amazing for 2.4 million views. Bricky's Every 40k Faction Explained has 8.7 million views, and it's only been 3 years since he made that video.
Well, how many views has every subsequent TTS video got?
Boy, I have to go through the playlist, don't I?
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like that's what I was gonna mention before, because TTS is the series itself. There's so many different episodes that Alpha Booster and his team have released, so I can imagine it's been seen by a lot more people.
Let's see. Eighth Emperor Fish Device Episode 2 has 2.8 million, 2.5 million, 2.4 million. Well, assuming a lot of those are the same people, I don't know as if we can give it too much of a...
But that's assuming.
Yeah, that's assuming.
But I mean, in terms of exposure, I think it's fair if we just keep it to the business. Because if we just go to the fans, we could be here for forever talking about fan content. Because what GW sometimes lacks in interaction with the community will then fill that void with their own stuff, with their own appreciative content. Like you mentioned before with the Starties and the crap, what was his name? They did the Last Church.
I don't remember his name.
The animator who did the voicing and thing, or are you talking about the actual book?
The animator. I'm on about fan content.
Shit, I don't remember his name.
Wait a minute. Hang on.
I'm pretty sure you said it several episodes ago.
The Last Church. I know he had to take it down because GW.
Although thingy Kill Team re-uploaded it, didn't
he did, yeah.
Tiber
Portuguese. Tiber Portuguese.
So, yeah, good fan content like that, are people filling the void for what they expect from GW to put out. So with the heightened exposure, we could get stuff like this officially by official animators in a more official and canon way.
Warhammer Plus.
That is then, which probably leads on to the disadvantages. It is one of the disadvantages with Warhammer going mainstream, is that a lot of it I think would be pay gated behind Warhammer Plus. But then again, I'm not fairly worried about that, because all it just takes is one person with an account and really good recording software, and they can just spread it like the plague. It's kind of it's kind of surprising. It's also equally as not surprising as how quickly that spreads around, Discords and re-upload sites, stuff like that.
Yep. And the thing is, too, I just find it surprising. I'm not not trying to indicate myself or anything, but I have seen some of their episodes through ways of, let's just call it the warp travel. Why not?
Oh yeah.
I found a way to warp travel, to find a way to see them. Some of them are really good. Some of them I do think are interesting, what was the name? The Angels of Death. That one at least was interesting to me.
Fuck, I'm gonna throw remind myself of that one.
The black and white with the red highlights.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
Yeah, that one was alright. Yeah,
Mm.
Hammer and Bolter. Many episodes were animated horrifically, though. Did I just give you an aneurysm? Okay.
I'll just say I agree. I'll say I agree, because we'll be here 6 hours.
Sure.
Oh my
Sure.
god. I mean, our little animatics with our animated heads are way better than some of the shit that they did on Hammer and Bolter.
Can't wait to do more of them.
And the thing is, none of us were being paid that much to do it. Like, how were we outclassing media that they were asking us to pay a monthly subscription for? Like, how? Like, that's ridiculous. They should be outclassing us, hands down.
Yeah, Angels of Death is probably like the only interesting thing that I've seen from Warhammer Plus in terms of a series, but Hammer and Bolter, that was
The best shit on Warhammer Plus was all shit that they robbed from fan animators.
yeah.
Like Exodite, that was a fan project before it got put on Warhammer Plus. Astartes 2, which I don't think is still up to this day, we're still waiting on it, but that was poached from Sayama Peterson. Like, and I'm almost certain Pariah Nexus was a fan project before it got sniped and stolen. I'm sorry, I refuse to phrase it other way. Let's be honest, it's stolen. When you coerce someone into uploading their shit on your site under the threat of legal action, which is almost certainly what they did. Yeah, I am sorry. I'm gonna call that theft. Like, you stole, they used your IP. That doesn't mean you own it. They animated it themselves. They designed all the characters themselves. They did all the hard work and legwork, and you don't make it yours just because you own the property it's based on. You could have an issue with them selling it, but that's about it.
Actually, it's actually interesting you mentioned. So the
Also,
latest
that Iron
one,
Warrior one, that was a fan project too. Just throwing that out there.
yeah, the latest one actually for Warhammer Plus Animation is the Broken Lands, and as interesting it might look, how much do you want to bet it was also stolen?
Broken Light Celtic. Oh, the hang on, wasn't that the one with the knight?
Yeah, the Imperial Knights fighting Chaos Knights.
I know Pariah Nexus was the one that used like the models they used for the 9th edition trailer. No, that was probably in-house, to be fair to GW. But the rest of it, that for a fact, everything else that I could list off, that I've already listed off, Exodite, Astartes 2, the Iron Warriors animation, all of that was confirmed fan projects that magically all simultaneously were like, oh, by the way, we're now going to officially be making this and putting this up on Warhammer Plus. Now here's a very copy and pasted like text thing of why we're removing it from the free content of YouTube.
Actually funny because some of the animations are actually coming back. So I don't know if you saw the Scorch video, but that one's
I think that's
that one's been
because
making the rounds.
people, fan animators in particular, realize that GW have no way to reinforce this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't, again, like what I said before, like legally, and especially in the United States with fair use laws, you cannot, by any stretch of the imagination, threaten someone with legal action for using your IP. You can if they claim to own it and are selling it based on the IP and are using your direct property to do it. But if it's transformative in nature, you can pretty much use existing properties as you see fit.
Isn't it like a dedicated percentage limit as to like how close something is before it's like straight up infringement? Like, you can't just take you can't just take it like a Blood Angel.
I'm not
paint it fucking purple.
I'm not a copyright lawyer. I will say that. I don't know the law in and out, and I can't tell you. I'm not a judge either. I can't tell you how it would be interpreted in court. But in the United States, reaction videos were taken to court, and the reactor won. If you can do so little as to just watch someone else's fucking video and commentate over it, and that in the U.S. courts count as fair use, then a fan animation damn sure is fucking fair use. Because the amount of effort to make that transformative, that is, even if it uses the same names, same aesthetic, same designs, but if all the models were made by the fan animator, if all the animations were done by the fan animator, I'm sorry. But again, in court, doesn't fucking matter. That's not your property.
Yeah, no, they shouldn't fly. Because I mean, as long as you don't sell it for money, you know
Yeah,
the
especially
sounds,
if you
the
don't sell it for money.
ambience, the models, the animations, the time it takes to organize, put it all together. You
Yeah,
know,
like
and
none
doing
of
it for absolute free. There should be no
no, like
blowback for that. It's passion. It's pure passion.
yeah, no court was if you're especially if you're doing it for free. No court is gonna be like, yeah, you owe this company damages. It's like, what did they do? They put a free video up that they weren't making. Like, they don't own it. They don't own any percentage of it. They own the IP it's based on.
Although, remember, if the copyright claim it, it's canon.
Ugh.
Because didn't shit, what was his name? Commissar YouTube channel dude, Commissar Gaz, is it?
Gamza?
Gazma, I think. Gazma.
Gazma, yeah. 'Cause
Gamza.
didn't he
Gamza. Right.
Gamza. Yeah, because didn't he get into a bit of hot water like years ago when he created his own 3D model and then GW went after him because he kind of
he's
looked
still,
like a Necron.
to this day, he still commissions STLs and stuff for like models, and puts up proxies to sell on his Patreon. And the one you're referencing, there were 2 on his Patreon that people who hated him and were for some reason sipping for GW a la fucking Valric style to the point of like fucking or more Norn Queen Alexis, to be fair, fucking like adding GW and stuff and telling them, hey, he's stealing your IP and stuff.
Is it Necron? Wasn't it like a Necron immortal?
Necron-like, and it was a Necron warrior type model. I think.
No, I mean that's what they were comparing it to. It was.
Yeah, they were comparing it to that, and I in my own video about it, I talked about it. And before Gamza took it down, Gamza had his own video comparing the two. He's like, and I pointed out to people like, dudes, the only similarity between Gamza's model and the official model, the only similarities is the silhouette, because at a distance they look the same. Like, if you're, 10 feet away and you were to see them painted the exact same on a tabletop, they would look the same at a 10-foot distance. But everything else is different. The eye shape is different. The general, ventilation holes and stuff, that looks different. The shape of the hands, the shape of the gun layout, all of that. Once you get any closer than 10 feet, the differences make themselves quite apparent. And a lot of, pseudo-fake lawyers and stuff in my comments on that video were like, sorry, but no. This in every way is a breach of copyright and blah, 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 blah. It's like, and I'm like, what are you talking about? No, it's not. Especially if we're talking about U.S. law, which Gamzo lives in the United States. He lives in the U.S. That fucking model does not look identical. Again, it's a silhouette that looked the same. But there were massive, innumerable changes made to it. So you cannot claim that they it is seriously, all Gamza would have had to do to make it an argument in court is just change the shape of the head, by all accounts. He could have left everything else the same, but once he made one change to it, now that's something you have to fight out in court.
Yeah.
That's the thing. A lot of people act like fair use and copyright and stuff in the United States has these explicit rules laid out. Some people even claimed the thing can't be it has to be 8 degrees of separation or something from the original object. It's like, what the fuck? No, it doesn't. Fair use in terms of the United States law is, was there any changes made to the original product? And I do mean any. It could be something as stupid as a fucking watermark in the corner. Now, of course, would that win in court? No. But that's the thing. All you need to do to make it a fight in court, to have to convince a copyright judge over, is make any kind of change. Because now you have to show it to a judge who understands the law and understands its intricacies and understands the purpose of copyright, which is to, for someone to be able to create something and then ensure their right to commercialize it as they see fit. That's the point of copyright. It's so when you make something, that's something that you made, you can do with as you see fit, and others can't infringe upon that. That's the point of copyright. But if someone transforms it to the point where it's not your original product one for one, that becomes something debatable. That's why fair use is not so specific. People act like it has a specific definition. It doesn't. Fair use in the United States, at least, is as broad as, were there changes? If so, well, now you have to bring it to court to argue. Now you have to bring it in front of a judge and debate it. Now, if it's something, if it is something as simplistic as just a watermark, then of course a judge is going to be like, no, that's not fair use. You owe them however many funds I declare or was agreed upon in the suit. Hammer's gavel. But for what Gamza did to that Necron model, compared to the original, he made countless changes. At a distance, they look the same, but once you get up close, there's innumerable changes, alterations, and differences that identify them completely separately. And you cannot claim that they're the exact same thing like some idiots were claiming. You would have to not be looking at the same object.
To be fair, to bring it back to the exposure point, I've just had a thought. Like, the more people they bring into the hobby, the more lawsuits GW are probably gonna have to file out over time. Because, you know, you could bring in like a bunch of animators and people that might get into the hobby, might make animations, might make STCs of the models they love. You know, they might make fan art or whatever. They're probably gonna have to go to court like a shit ton more because, like, of the sudden thousands of like people that actually have passion for franchises, like, you know, that they invest in. Are we GW trying to like curtail any sort of piece of media that they don't have like the grubby little fucking hands on? Can imagine can imagine they're gonna be going after like a lot more people.
Which is kind of ironic considering their inspirations for 40k are numerous.
Oh yeah.
What GW did was an inspiration. That was rip-off. That was just rip-off. Which again, which makes like the games case even more funny, to be honest. Because it's like, if GW did go after him for that, it's like, if I were Gamza, I'd be like, since you're going at my pseudo Necron model, should we compare your Necron warrior to, I don't know, a T800? I think James Cameron might want to have a talk with you since you're having a talk with me, jackass.
Yeah, absolute fucking jokes. What about the Nids and HR Geiger?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I might have a few words to that as well.
It's like that's why it's so funny how litigious GW is when it comes to this shit. It's so fucking funny that they're as litigious as they are, to the point where the community memes about it regularly. We're joking about it. They're that fucking litigious about 40k. Yet, every single element of 40k is a direct rip-off of something else, with only slight changes made to it. Now, I'm okay with that, because I understand and accept and find that fair to say that that's fair use. 40k, I would consider an original product, but you make yourself look so bad, though, when you don't give that same courtesy and same perception to people who take your stuff and make slight alterations. Fucking hell. Like, did you know, Nathan, that in, like, the, I want to say 3rd or 4th edition Necron Codex, the Necrons had a special ability called We Will Be Back. Or Will Be Back.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, they did. Like, in their old school codex. That's how much of a blatant fucking ripoff they were, by the way. Like, the Necrons now, compared to how they used to be, they've gone to such lengths to try and differentiate themselves from Terminators, but they didn't even try back in the day. Back in the day, it was just, they literally like, hey, in the rulebook, we will be back, or we'll be back. Not even trying to hide it. Like,
Jesus.
the irony and the gumption that they have to be as litigious as they are about this shit is ironic.
Maybe with the exposure, we could flood them with so many court cases that they end up giving up.
That would be nice. You know, for them to finally, like,
terrific.
Release the fucking pearl clutches.
Would they finally see the light of the glorious God Emperor? No.
All that fan content that's kind of being held in like a very tight noose would suddenly be freeing the hobby would just be so much better for it. If the people with actual passion and are not being paid to animate something actually would give out, the content that they're working on, I reckon that could actually bring in. To be fair to Asmo, yeah, you did raise a good point. Like, I mean, it's one thing for like the company to sanction, crossover material between 40k and something else, but I can imagine like with actual fan content, maybe they could provide a lot more exposure than GW ever could. Because of the passion behind some of the projects that they make.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, the biggest growth spurts for 40k over the last decade have been from the fans. GW has done hardly anything to nothing to help Warhammer grow. Like, again, the biggest growth spurts for this community and this fandom, what were they? TTS, a decade ago now, which is scary to think about. That's been a decade since TTS started. But
get old.
TTS, a decade ago. Astartes, and then Bricky's videos. Those three are particularly notable spikes in 40k being Google searched, in 40k being looked into, in 40k being played, the books being checked out, the audiobooks, the tabletop, the video games. All of that stuff spiked in popularity because of fans. What has GW done by comparison to help Warhammer get exposure and grow? White Dwarf, which hardly anybody who's not already a fan of 40k even knows exists, let alone buys. In fact, I don't even know if they make those magazines anymore. White Dwarf, and selling out their IP to anybody really who will take it in the video game industry, to mixed results. Everything ranging from Dawn of War and Relic to Fire Warrior and whoever the hell made Fire Warrior. So those two things, that's it. Like, that's all GW has done to help Warhammer grow and get exposure.
Well, I mean, they did also do, because this isn't the first crossover they've done, they did one with Magic the Gathering, remember?
And not trying to mention the big elephant in the room, they also did one with Power Wash Simulator, which was...
that's within, like, the last,
yeah.
Like, that's,
like month?
Yeah. Like 2 weeks. Like, it was, 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, they did the crossover with Magic the Gathering, which I'm not sure how popular that did.
Well, the thing is with Magic's a weird one for me, because sometimes I think of it as a mainstream hobby and sometimes I don't. It's definitely mainstream in regards to my personal definition, which is does it get referenced in the popular cultural zeitgeist? I'm pretty sure Big Bang Theory referenced fucking Magic the Gathering, if I'm not mistaken. So Magic the Gathering is definitely a mainstream, as nerdy as it is, it's a mainstream thing, kind of like D&D has become. When 40k did its crossover with it, though,
I mean, I don't think it was helped much. I mean, for example, with Magic the Gathering, literally doing the Lord of the Rings one. That got such...
Well, the Lord of the Rings ones, as far as I've heard, the cards actually were popular. Not in terms of people actually liking the cards specifically, but because people wanted to collect them. I can't remember if, I don't know. I've never seen someone out in the wild. And at my local hobby store, people play Magic all the time. I don't think I've ever seen any of them play the 40k cards. Did they make that many? I don't remember them even making that many.
They did several sets based on a few legions, and I think they did a few Xenos, like the Orcs and the Nids. I definitely know they did the Nids, because that was when they had the Destruction of Baal campaign going.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up. Yep, and they're still selling them to this day. Yeah, because you can get them on Amazon. They have a box for the Chaos Warriors. They have a box for Forces of the Imperium, which is like Inquisitors and stuff. Tyranids, Necrons. I don't know. I've never seen them out in the wild. That's all. But yeah, as far as like any impact that had on 40K growing, I'm gonna make the argument it really didn't, because with the popularity of Magic the Gathering, I would say most of the people who were interested in picking up 40K Magic cards were probably 80% likelihood already fans of 40K.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, it's still, it was still crossed over, when you were mentioning sort of, efforts to grow the community. They still tried, they still did something like that. And maybe it did bring in, like, a few more people. People like, this other universe might seem a little interesting. But yeah, like you said, I doubt it had much impact because the same sort of nerdy introverts who are playing, like, fucking card games, I'm pretty sure they've heard of 40K.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like I would call 40K mainstream, but it's like it's just started. Like it's just kind of entered the threshold of mainstream.
Yeah. The real final line to decide how like solidified it is in the mainstream actually, regardless of how well it does, it will, but once it comes out, it'll solidify its mainstream status. And again, it's whether or not Henry Cavill does it or not is pointless. At this point, it's kind of inevitable that someone will try it. But once it gets like an actual media adaptation in terms of television or film, that'll solidify it as a mainstream product.
To be fair, it wouldn't surprise me if a bunch of Zoomers are already into 40K. Do you know why?
It's edgy.
No. Well, I mean, it's edgy, but it's not there's a particular content creator out there who appealed to like a mass Zoomer audiences, and he used 40K as his basis. Do you remember who?
Zoomer Major Kill?
Wes Hammer.
Oh, Wes.
Remember, he flooded YouTube Shorts with like, the whole sort of, shouting really loudly at the camera, pointing his finger up, saying, Warhammer's 40K has all these like cool, using clip art gifs and fucking the videos, sparkles and shit. Low attention span Zoomer humor. Now they're introduced to 40K, which is part of the disadvantages, because 40K being mainstream, okay, yeah, it's got advantages, but one of the disadvantages is that it's becoming mainstream in today's day and age. So GW are probably going to get a shit ton of Zoomer tourists, and the moment that 40K, a tabletop game that requires an actual modicum of like strategic thinking and and actually being able to sit down and listen to a bit of lore, for more than 5 minutes without fucking Family Guy content or like mobile gameplay in the fucking background. The moment they realize that they have to do that, they'll probably just dart somewhere else. If you get me.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that happens, to be honest. But at the same time, it's stuff like that, though, that is kind of the negatives with exposure, is it might influence GW to be like, oh shit, people are running away, even though we're just getting eyes on shit, because it's too complicated. Let's turn this into checkers with fancy pieces.
Or even worse, they'll outright change. Already they're removing all of the grimdark and stuff like that, which is kind of a bummer. But even more so when the Zoomers arrive and when they leave, they'll think, "Oh no, we have to placate to them. We have to give them instant stimulation. We have to make more mobile games, make more." Get that shit on Fortnite. Get their eyes on this.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next point. From the watered down content, there's also then going to be with the watered down lore and the context. It won't be as violent. Like if we thought Grimdark was disappearing from 40K now, fuck me, it's gonna be 10 times as worse if they start appealing to mass audiences.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just think they will. I I dread not to even think what they'll do. They'll marvelize it, basically. There'll be a funny quip everywhere. There'll be no stakes. And obviously, if they do things in the modern day, trying to push for DEI and ESG scores, all the men will be useless. The female has to get things done. The Sisters of Battle will no longer, worship the Emperor, which is, kind of the source of their power, but never mind.
There's nothing. Wait, hey, have you seen the Emperor personally? No, then you don't know. Then you don't know that the Emperor wasn't a girl. as fucking wheezing in the background. That would be the type of shit that they'd pull. And I mentioned the whole Marvelization before. Is the fact that because modern day audiences are getting slightly more ADHD with how they ingest content, GW are just gonna pump it out to satiate people's wants and needs for more lore. So while people diehard fans, long-time fans, can respect the amount of time it takes to put out a genuine and good piece of content, to appeal to the Zoomers and to appeal to modern day audiences that might just be tourists, if anything, they're gonna need content every week, possibly every day. Pumping everything out on a quick conveyor belt rate. It's gonna be watered down, less quality, less content overall, to be frank. And it's just gonna end up as just schlock. It's just gonna be goy slop. Consume 40k, consume media. Oh, guess what? They've just released a new book that's coming out in 3 days. That's probably going to give you the ending that you want, because we want a mass appeal to a bunch of new people. They're kind of an independent, smart thought by themselves. So we've just got to tickle the neurons in a particular way so that 40k will stay relevant to all the pay pigs out there.
But the thing is,
that's what it'll become.
Yeah, that's what it'll become. But the thing is, I don't even think the Zoomer audience would be interested in reading, because how many of them even read books?
Well, I mean, that's where the lore YouTubers come in. There'll be countless amounts of channels that'll sprout up that'll literally just read entire audiobooks as is. And I'm not discrediting those channels, the ones that already do, because they put in a lot of effort and a lot of sort of thematic ambience behind their productions. But the amount of YouTube channels that'll just pop up that'll just flat out fucking read everything.
They'll just, yeah.
And you raise a good point. That's if any of the Zoomers are interested anyway. Because to be frank, a lot of these efforts on GW's part, they might ditch the old fans in search of these new ones, but they'll find that the new ones aren't as willing to accept, actual patience and waiting for good quality content.
They just want it now. They just, yeah. And
want it now. Is it bright? Is it flashy? Is it action packed?
And
unless 40k becomes the fucking Fast and Furious film series where anybody with 20 IQ can actually sit down and watch it. They won't they won't pay any attention. I'm sorry, but those series of films are the most brain dead fucking films going currently. Just sit down, women, cars, explosions, action, guns, big muscly men for a bunch of men in a theater with fucking fat pot bellies and type 2 diabetes waiting around the corner in 10 years fucking time.
That's actually interesting you mentioned that, because not that long ago, freaking Avatar 2 came out. And there's one YouTube channel I've been listening to called The Little Platoon, and he equated the movie to basically a Huxleyan term called the feelies. Basically, movies that don't contain any message. There's no artistic talent, or there's no drive to really tell a story, or to try and put any large amount of thought or trying to change someone's mind. It is just there to be consumed, to be in the know. And if that happens to 40K, it'll mark the end for me. That would just mark the end. I would just quit the franchise. I would just get, okay, enough of this. I'm gonna go somewhere else. I'll find I'll find something else to fill my time. The thing is, people have already found stuff to fill their time. I found War Machine and Hordes. I've also found, BattleTech, but there issues that is also going through its own issues with tourists as well.
Remember the you will not be missed fucking letter that GW put if they thought that the previous thing were like a bunch of fans left because of the message that they put out, like if they, let's say they make female Space Marines for the sake of exposure, that previous campaign, that'll be nothing. The biblical movement, like the Jews coming out of Egypt trying to find their homeland, that'll be comparable to that. Just swaths of people. It's like, all right, fuck this, I'm out. Last straw, done.
Yeah.
And then GW will be left with either pay pigs that have invested so much into 40K that they physically cannot leave due to the thousands they've poured in. They'll either be left with them or a group of tourists that slowly over time will just leave. And GW's main and biggest cash cow will be gone. Yeah. Unless you want to make Darktide 2, Darktide 3, Darktide 4, Darktide 5.
It'll just become the new Call of Duty equivalent. Yeah, it'll just become the new Call of Duty equivalent.
Yeah, fuck it. You know what? Yeah, exactly. Like, that could be a new thing. Like, maybe we'll get a Call of Duty inspired or Battlefield inspired Imperial Guard game, which now we'll talk about it. Yeah, that would actually be kind of sick, but,
Yeah.
You can imagine how in the sphere of modern gaming that might turn out.
Yeah.
Look what they did with Darktide. Hey, do you want to play the Maccabian Janissary skin? Fuck it, $4.
$4? Cheap. You pay for only $4.
Hey, with the amount of regiments that they're probably going to sell in quick asset swaps, the $4 would just be like a blip.
Like,
so you can tell gun skin separate, tank skin separate, map separate, DLC separate.
You're more looking like $20, $30.
Per, I wouldn't say per skin. If you want to take a collection of skins, yeah, sure.
Last time I logged into Darktide, it would cost $2,400 actually. For 2,400 requisition things only.
But isn't that for like the entire set though, not like just the skin?
That's for the skin.
Because you get the accessories as well. No, don't give it one more hour.
It's not another hour. It's I have to update it. Fuck.
It saved you. Take the hint.
Well, point is, it's like fucking. It's closer to like $15, something like that, for just the skin.
Right.
Like there hasn't been a skin that was only $4 since fucking 2011. Skins nowadays are minimum.
Horse armor. In Oblivion, sorry.
Yeah, like equip your Imperial Guard person with like a cybernetic eye. How much is that? $10. Zooey mama, that's a bit much.
I mean, I think what was the most? It was actually the most I've ever heard of anyone paying for that amount, or even more so. I don't know if you heard the story, but in what was it, EVE Online? Literally, they gave you like a monocle that cost $70. $70, real cash.
Fuck.
I kind of hope GW doesn't remember that bit of history, because oh boy, if they brought that attitude to Darktide.
Yeah, that's another disappointing thing with exposure, is the fact that I think it'll make GW a lot more greedy. Because with all these new fans, all this new influx, they could possibly just start pay gating the shit ton of stuff.
Though,
Like any new piece of media that they put out or they sanction like a game, you know, they will pay gate the shit out of that. I mean, like Darktide was a perfect example. You know, we've just been going on about it.
true, but although that's the thing though. The first hurdle people have in to get into 40K is the expense. So I think the ones that don't, the ones that may, that only have a passing interest, the tourists and stuff like that. I feel like they would, kind of move on by themselves. It's like, oh, it's that expensive.
Well,
I'll just get back to my Call of Duty.
Well, I mean, how many free-to-play games has GW put out? You know, the Horus Heresy Legions, Warp Forge, shit, what else have they put out free-to-play? Realms of Chaos, which, they are mobile games, granted, but, they do put out free-to-play shit so that people just casually browsing on an app store can just look at it and go, I'll get into that. And then when they just start throwing app purchases at them to get the cool weapons and the cool skins and the cool characters, people just eat it up because the standards have lowered so much than from what gaming used to be like. And I feel old saying this, but like 20 years ago,
Don't worry.
they will get the money
Mm.
because all these like zoomers and tourists that have just come in, the economy might be in shit, but fucking hell, $5 for like the Blade of Antwerp, or like Antwerp. Why not? You okay, buddy? Are you not having an aneurysm?
I'm having 1,000-yard stare like I'm seeing the future.
That's actually funny. I thought I was the one who was being quiet. I was just letting you guys rant on.
I'm worried for the future of 40K. Upside, as I've said all along, the upside with a hobby like this is pretty straightforward. The upside is with a hobby like this over video games is we have the codexes, we have the miniatures, we have the physical product in front of us. So should things go tits up in the worst case scenario, like things going super mainstream and getting shitty,
We have fallbacks.
we have fallbacks. Like we have a line we can choose not to cross, and nothing forces us to cross it.
Exactly. So if things do go tits up, even if I will leave, if it ever does go tits up and I leave the 40K hobby, like I'm still gonna play Dawn of War. I'm still gonna read the first 3 Horus Heresy books. I'm still gonna paint some models and stuff like that. But any further support for the company, I don't know if I would continue with it.
Remember from episode 1, keep those fucking discs, boys.
Yes.
They might try Dawn of War Reforged. They will not take our discs.
Fuck no.
You copy that shit, and you will not let go of Dawn of War. It will be our fucking bastion, our landmark,
And
the hill that we will die on, like that original artwork of the Crimson Fists, just taking down hordes of enemies, all surrounded in a pile of brothers. They will not fucking take our Dawn of War. You make your stand.
I'm actually, you know what? I'm actually tempted now to try and look for Dawn of War Collector's Edition, just for the first. Yeah.
GW might come round your house after you might have, after your 5-year-old might have drawn a picture of an Ultramarine on a piece of paper that you stuck on the fridge, and GW got actually no copyright. They may stick an Ultramarine dildo right up your ass just so you will feel the Ultramarine love, whether you like it or not. But your Dawn of War discs remain untainted.
unviolated except for you.
Yeah, do not accept a Call of Duty 40k crossover Goyslop. Do not fucking accept whatever watered down shit that GW might put out if 40k then does grow in the mainstream.
Remember, bring the incense. Bring the holy water and the incense. Just remember that.
Have the holy water, have the incense. We will not be cooked out of our law. We will keep it. We will fight them at the stores. We will fight them at the conventions, and we will fight them at the tables.
Nathan's going to war.
I'm going fucking Winston Churchill on the.
You will never surrender.
I am breaking the somber attitude just to fucking liven things up a bit, but I really fucking, as for what you said before, that's one of the good things about 40k currently is the fact that it's a niche. So unless you're really into it, the hobby kind of gatekeeps itself with how grimdark it used to be. But with how GW is watering down a lot of stuff, unfortunately, it's going to bring in a lot more people. The gate's going to be harder to keep, and they're going to start prioritizing most of the tourists over us. You know, the people that have supported them for years. Like, as much as my models have not gone painted, I still buy them. As much as the games go without quality assurance, I still kind of buy them. You know, Rogue Trader was really good. Rogue Trader's full of fucking bugs, though.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, and do you think like the quality of the games are going to improve over time with like the industry standards are slipping? And just imagine, like I said, fucking like a few episodes ago, you know, imagine every little Zoomer shit with the fucking backwards snap cap named Kyle or Alex playing Call of Duty, all of a sudden seeing a fucking Ultramarine or like a Blood Angel. Now all of a sudden they're going to be interested in 40k. And great if they don't get into it and they don't plague our like space with their like autistic Zoomer tendencies by running around with light up sketches because God forbid something doesn't flash rainbow for 5 fucking seconds. But if they do infest the hobby, they're going to come in droves and swarms. And they're going to use daddy's or mummy's credit card to like buy up a bunch of models. That's going to give GW basically the go ahead to say, hey, we're just going to either increase the prices or lower the prices. I'm pretty sure it's going to be increase the prices because these Zoomer little bastards are buying everything up. But they're not going to have the patience to follow anything through. So GW are going to make a bunch of decisions because of these little Zoomer bastards that have now infected the hobby. Thanks, Warhammer, by the way, for making all those fucking TikTok goy slop shit that's now introduced a bunch of like prepubescent knobheads to our hobby. Thanks for that.
Just love the idea that
GW are going to be making decisions. Like they're going to be making decisions that are not going to benefit the old fans, and I don't think, to be fair, they've not even been doing that for fucking ages. When was the last thing GW itself pushed out that was quality? Not a fan animator, not a game made by another studio, not like lore. When was the last time a piece of lore, like a book or like a model, really blew you the fuck away? And it was made with love and community at heart. When was the last time?
The very last.
Like the last time you felt that GW had you as an old fan in mind, that had your back, that said, hey, thanks for supporting us for all these years.
2010?
2010. Most of
If
these
that.
fuckers that are playing Call of Duty, playing with these crossovers, weren't even born in 2010.
Don't make me feel older than I already do, man.
I am literally a year older than you. You're as only as young as you feel.
I feel ancient. That's not good. It's not good.
Fucking Asmogan walking around like Rylanor.
I feel like right. Oh, I'm just waiting for my chance to let off the nuke.
You put your hand. You put your hand in his left hand pocket. He's got a fucking virus bomb down there.
Finally, a reason to use it.
Yeah, the disadvantages of like Warhammer 40. In fact, actually, no. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Nico, when was the last time you felt GW had your back? It had your genuine best interests at heart.
At heart, probably never, because again, like I got a little bit late into 40k compared to others. So I was aware of it around 2012, I would say, and since Asmo mentioned like 2010 being like the last time that they ever cared about the customers, then in my case, never.
Because if they really did care about the customers, like, I've not seen anywhere that shows their maths and their working out about how they price some of the shit. I remember one of the episodes, like, Nico, fuck it, shameless plug. Nico, you animated one of our VoxWorks pieces.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, go check that out. It's absolute keck. It's absolute keynote, Nico, and a very good moment that he picked. I don't know how the hell they come up with the equations on like charging people extra in different countries. I can get shipping and stuff like that, but to be fair, large corporate shipping you could probably get as a business fairly cheap, even with all the current day shit going down. You know, I'm surprised like people don't hit up like people in England to like ship off packages from GW stores and get delivery at a fraction of the prices.
Which reminds me, I do have a list now. So
Fuck's sake,
I'll run
it. But yeah,
I'll run it.
like
Yeah.
if they like genuinely cared about the fans, they wouldn't have such price gouging. In fact, Magnus the Red would not cost £100. It'd cost 60 tops. In that
Costs
box, there is not.
160.
Yeah, there is $160 for you.
Yes.
Holy shit! Wait, hang on. I need to check how expensive is it at my?
Okay, right. Fuck it. Yeah, right. I'll
All
look
right,
it up on
correction.
our website as well.
170.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
I was off by $10.
Hang on. 20,000 ISK. That translates to.
Okay, right. Okay, Magnus the Red is £100. Bang on. I'm now looking at the store, but the buy button doesn't say buy. It says notify when available. So it's sold out.
Ah, fuck it. Currency.
Because I'm pretty sure I
converter.
have Magnus somewhere.
Tell you what, I'll put it in British pound.
I know I have Mortarion. I might have picked up Magnus just to. Yeah, I picked up the Mortarion model for 140. Maybe I should sell it.
£114. What's that in US?
I'm not sure. Probably $130, 140.
Pound to dollar is £1 to 1.28 United States dollars. So if I were to do £100, it would be 128 United States dollars. And if I were to do £114, that is 146.16 United States dollars.
$146. Huh.
So $170, let's retroactively do that, is £132.59. And that's buying the model. That's not even shipping costs.
Oh.
Do you see what I mean when I say that GW, if they genuinely cared about the fans, they would not be pulling this shit.
170. I just see it right before my eyes.
You are correct, Nathan. If they gave you a rat's ass about us, these would not be the prices.
No.
Like, I have legitimately drunkenly thought about setting up a 40k English charity where people that want models from all across the world can hit up their local Englishman and we will deliver you the fucking package at a fraction of the price. Just give us the base model cost and, like, I don't know, second class at best, tracked, whatever. But yeah, I do not think there is $100 or $170 worth of resin in that box.
It's like, do you know how much you can buy with that shit? Like,
Yeah.
some people, like, live off,
Yeah, that
like,
could
on even less.
that could buy
That
me
is a full week shopping.
an eighth.
That's a full, like, 2-month shopping for me. 170.
That's an eighth of a root canal cost. I know I had that today. It cost me $840.
Jeez. Fucking hell. Yeah, and this is just ridiculous. Like, but that would be kind of funny to think about, though. How the streamers would get into this, they would waste all their dollars.
Well, that's the thing. The one thing that will protect us from going mainstream in terms of the tabletop, the prices.
Yeah.
Because normies will really get into something until it costs too much.
Or, you know, it requires too much, like the painting and the assembly and all that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, yeah, that'll take away the average, like the normie. So
The patient activities, like I said before, about the lore and, you know, the model assembly, that'll gatekeep all the Zoomers, but they'll still would have already spent the money before they even open the box.
yeah, that's
And
the thing.
again, like GW will just see the buying patterns and go, oh, there's a bunch of Zoomers that are currently investing. Let's just up the prices because they saw fucking Westhammer or whatever just point to an orc and go, oh my god, green man funny.
The thing is, though, it's like, and this is when I was beginning to get into 40k, is that I didn't understand anything, but that was also kind of part of the fun. Like, okay, I don't know this. Now I want to sink my teeth into this. I want to try and understand it. That was also part of the fun because there's so much little detail here and there that if you invest enough of your time in, like it is gratifying almost by itself. So, and like, yeah, trying to placate to that customer base that cannot think without rainbows or, well, basically they can't live without TikTok, which, oh my, like, I cannot. That's the thing. I cannot imagine being a kid nowadays. Like, I would imagine if it's just kind of be shit. Completely, like compared to how our child, how things used to be. I know I'm starting to sound like we're really old, but
Nah. You boomer showing Mr. fucking.
I'm getting.
You're older than me, and you still like use Facebook and shit. Like, nah.
See the wrinkles in his
Nah.
skin.
The wrinkle, they're slowly coming.
Easy, old man. We're starting to see the veins popping.
Back in my day, things used to be fun around here.
You can tell how old Nico is if you cut off one of his legs and you count the rings. Going inwards towards his bones. How many Werther's originals have you got in your cupboards? About 20, yeah. Sounds about right. Sounds 60.
Jeez. Yeah.
Well, I think we've generally gone into our thoughts about the advantages and disadvantages. Anything else you guys would like to say?
I genuinely would hope for GW6. I know for a damn. I know they will never listen to us. They'll just see us as a pay pig that isn't paying us enough, so we're not worth listening to. But genuinely, if anyone is genuinely listening, hear me out on this. You are not going. It's like 40k is not going to last if you're going to try and placate the audience, the normie audience. You're not. You are just not. 40k is it caters to a very specific type of audience, right? And that's its appeal. For something, yeah, because not everyone. That's the thing. Not everyone is into modeling. Not everyone is into very complicated lore that takes time sinking in. That requires a very particular type of personality. Well, I mean, not trying to out myself here, but
Introverted
yes.
weirdo.
Introverted weird, yeah.
The archetype that beats all others.
Or the autistic, which, I mean, yeah, I am. So,
You don't say.
I mean, yeah. So, going after the audience that does not pay attention, that needs constant stimulation, it is going to be the death knell of you. And this is now would be the time to turn the tides rather than later. That's all I have to say.
I will say it is slightly cathartic to imagine if 40k did ever become like super duper mainstream, like what some of the crossovers would be. like okay, let's say 40k gets its own Battlefront game. That'd be dope, right?
Oh
Yeah.
But
Then it
I
gets a
dunno.
Fortnite skin with the Emperor.
And calling in fucking
Fortnite.
dreadnoughts and shit. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, Fortnite skin, fucking Rocket League. You've got Lehman Russ tanks flying off the side of the wall. You've got, I don't know, Candy Crush with like crack grenades, vortex grenades.
I'm gonna stop you before you fucking give me a brain aneurysm. All right. That's been our advantages and disadvantages thoughts. Kind of scatterbrained at times, but generally speaking, those are our thoughts. Nathan, you said you collected 3 community questions.
Yes, I did. As per the standard episode format, we're going to be the next are going to be answering 3 questions from the community. So, the ones I have picked are one from our dear friend Pyrrhus of Epirus, the master painter himself.
Head pats for days.
Very talented.
So, question number 1 from him says 40k faction tier list. As a group, do you like Imperial Guard, Legions, Xenos, etc.?
Shit. Alright, let's use this system. We'll do a S through D. S being the highest tier, A, B, C, and then D being the bottom tier.
Okie doke. Fine, fuck it.
Yep.
Alright, so we'll start with everybody's S tier. What's everybody's S tier? I'll
Space
start.
Marines.
Space Marines?
Yeah.
Alright. I will agree. Space Marines. And I will also say we are doing generic factions. We would be here all century if we went down to like the sub factions. So yeah, I'd say Space Marines S tier.
Like I said, I want to say Imperial Guard S tier because true, the Space Marines do look cool. They have very cool aesthetics and all of that. But the Imperial Guard, even though they're not as powerful, even if they are not as revered as the Space Marines, they still put their neck on the line, and they are going to go in there and get the job done.
Oh yeah.
Or at least die trying, and I find that admirable.
Actually, let me do it like this. I'll name off a faction, and we all say what tier we think it belongs in. How about that?
Okay.
Instead of us each like listing one, because we're gonna jump all over the spot if we do that. So Space Marines, Nathan and me both say S tier. Would you agree with that, Nico?
Yeah, sure.
And
I would say S tier.
Imperial Guard.
S
A tier.
I'd go with A tier personally. Because as much as like for me, it's because there are really highs and really lows with the Imperial Guard. For me, like for every Catachan Jungle Finder, you have the Vestroyans, which I don't particularly love.
Don't you talk shit about the Vestroyans.
I am not a huge fan of the Vestroyans. I'm sorry. Like, I don't hate them, but it's a case of are they as cool as like fucking Rambo mixed with Arnold Schwarzenegger mixed with Chuck Norris for like the Catachan Jungle Fighters? No, they're not. I'm sorry. Vestroyan Firstborn. For me, the only thing that's cool about the Vestroyans is their appearance. Their actual lore, I don't really love that much personally.
They are drippy as fuck. That's all that matters.
I will agree. They got the drip. They've got the drip.
They are drippy.
Does that? Well, since we're going by that, and you mentioned Space Marine would be S tier, and since you mentioned that you don't like, say, the Vestroyans, doesn't that also mean that you would put the Blueberries into the?
No, because what I was saying with the Imperial Guard is there's highs and lows, but that's not just because of Vestroyans or just because of Catachan. Those are just 2 examples. There's multiple regiments I don't think are very good, so I think they're kind of meh. So therefore bottom tier, and there's only a handful I think are really, really cool, which are top tier.
Yeah.
For Space Marines, I hate one Space Marine chapter/Legion, and that's pretty much it.
Huh.
Yeah, we kind of did agree on the generic factions, because if we were to like take into account the Ultramarines, that'd be a specific one. So we're kind of just doing like as base plate as they are.
Sure. All right.
So I'd call them A tier because
A-tier,
the brave, the brave men, they are, despite how squishy they are, there's countless countless numbers of them across the galaxy. They are the front line. But they died, I think, way too easy.
Alright, so Space Marines, we did Imperial Guard. Alright, let me go to left field on this one. Leagues of Votann.
D.
C.
They're just not fleshed out. Not
Not
enough
at all,
for me
yeah.
to care.
I won't
They
say
need,
they're quite D for me. Like there's like for me if they were in a different tabletop game, I think I'd find them interesting. But for 40K, they just don't belong. So solidly C for me, leaning towards D.
If they were just made into squats, that would help a lot.
They were made into actual squats as the squats were originally, just updated like quality sculpts. Fucking S tier.
That would be.
All right, Sororitas.
Ooh, I'd say
B.
S.
fuck. I'd say B.
Really?
Yeah.
I got nothing against the sisters.
Goddamn.
It's just...
Two of you stay right there. Yeah, Inquisitor, I got two of them. Yeah, I got two of them. Send a Vindicare if you're feeling generous. If you're feeling not so inclined, please send an Exodat. Thank you very much. B, really?
Yeah, because I think as much as I like the sisters, I'm not sure whether it's bias showing, but I think they've kind of been ruined for me for the amount of fucking simps that constantly post art about, oh, fucking bolter bitches, big boobs, fucking one-track mind shit. It's cringe to me.
Dummy mommy.
I don't let that roll.
Yeah, exactly. It's just fucking Kuma shit constantly. You hate Kumas. Hate them.
I think it's, for me,
It's
it's B tier. It's just because,
They're
like,
cool.
I'm not gonna put... Yeah, they look cool.
Yeah.
And I don't, like, I do value the service. It's just that I don't really think about them as much as, say, Imperial Guard of Space Marines. It's like, but like I do like them, so like, you know, B tier for me is just
And
really nice.
for me, I like their lore and their characters and their aesthetics so much. For me, like it's so good that the bunch of community simp dickwads don't really ruin it for me. You know, like that's why for me very easily S tier.
Like, that's the thing with the sisters though, because the sisters, one of their specialties is fire, isn't it?
Burn it with
Well,
fire.
if you like
yeah.
fire, yeah. If you like fire, go the salamanders. If you like the imperial heraldry, you know, the aesthetics, go with the space marines. They have it in droves. If you like the squishy humans, go for the imperial guard. Apart from like the saint aesthetics, I don't see any sort of originality in the sisters that is not covered by another faction. Which again is another reason that like it's a B for me.
Nuns in power armor, and you think other factions got that?
No, I didn't say that specifically.
Nathan, we'll have words later.
fucking you can have words. Words will be had, mister. If you want to if you want to simp for 2D big boob fucking bolter bitches, be my guest. Leave me out of it.
I don't.
I'm gonna
I just
be
think
with,
they're all. I think they're
I'm
cool.
gonna be where the men are. I'm gonna be with the big bulky men, totally platonically looking at them with a big throbbing power sword.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of high school a little bit. Like I joined the swim team and the football team because I was also on the football team. They're like,
Yeah.
dude, you're in the swim team. That's kind of gay. I'm like, yes, I'm one of only 2 guys on the team out of a team of 80, and the rest are all women and barely skin tight, scantily clad swimsuits. Yeah,
Totally gay.
Totally gay. Yeah. If this is what gay looks like, I hate to see what straight looks like. Anyway, okay, so I'm alone on my island, S tier. You guys are B. All right, let's go. Chaos demons, specifically demons, not CSM.
Specifically demons.
Hmm.
S tier.
S tier.
I want to say A.
I'm gonna go A. Almost B, but I'll go A more firmly.
Okay.
Because aesthetically, really love them. Obviously, lore-wise, lots to appreciate there. Only thing that brings them down is sculpts for the tabletop. They've got some. They're not as bad as they used to be. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, all the modern sculpts are great by comparison to old sculpts, but in terms of like the modern sculpts, they got some of the least interesting to ugliest. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a hit or miss in that regard.
I think for me, I just I love the idea of demons. I love the idea of a demonic possession, and like they can come in various forms, even if they're only constrained to the 4 gods of chaos. I think what brings it down is like I can't really, for me to put it in in A tier instead of S. It's just I don't really root for them. Like I can't really. That's a little bit for me. Like I can't really root for them in any way. But yeah.
All right. So CSM. Yeah, Space Marines.
A.
I'd go with A as well.
Yeah, A.
Yeah.
Because, like, as much as I've got general bias in favor of the demons, like, because, like, I love demonology, like, I love biblical stuff like that. Chaos Space Marines, it kind of struggles to find its identity, between the Space Marine aesthetic and then the demon aesthetic at the same time. In my opinion, like, it tries to have the coolness of either faction, doesn't get either, if you get me.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd also I'd bring it down from S because though lore wise they got some awesome lore.
Oh yeah.
It like overall aesthetic there seems to be a lack. Because especially on the tabletop you see this. There's a lack of cohesion with the warband identity, their chaos mix, and also still remaining like very clearly Space Marines. Like,
Yeah.
on the tabletop, there should be like Iron Warrior customization where like the dreadnoughts Hellbrutes look more like dreadnoughts, right? They're just chaosy with spikes. But unfortunately, you kind of just have Hellbrutes unless you do kit bashing.
I just love the love the idea that somebody just the elevator pitch was like, okay, picture this: Space Marines, but they have spikes on them.
And it's really all they needed to do. And that's what the majority of them are, is just Space Marines with spikes on them. With maybe some slightly unique armor. But there's
Or a mutilated limb.
There's certain lacking elements, or sometimes where they lean too much chaos or too little chaos. And I think the Hellbrute's a good example. It's a dreadnought equivalent, but it looks, no matter what variation you do of it, it looks very fleshy and like yeah, I guess that's the only term to use. Really fleshy and gutty and the thing-like. Where I think there should be the option of just a dreadnought with spikes on it, without having to kit bash. Because there's quite a few Chaos Space Marine warbands and legions that wouldn't have that kind of fleshy, mutated look to them. Like, it makes sense for Mortarion and the Death Guard, for sure. Like, the mutation fleshiness. Makes sense a little bit for Slaanesh as well, but for Tzeentch or for Khorne, or Undivided for that matter, not really. It looks out of place. So, yeah, for me, there's like a little cohesion issues with their aesthetic. So, yeah, pretty firmly A. And what really holds them up is the lore.
Yep.
Yeah, to be fair, hard agree.
Alright, so we've done Imperial Guard. Let's speed around the rest of the Imperium real quick. Inquisition or Inquisitors.
S.
Yeah, S.
I'd put them in B.
Okay.
Because like as much as I love the aesthetic and like the tone of the Inquisitors, where like it's very sort of any whispers of heresy like immediately quash. Like they are very, very dedicated to their work. It kind of blends together a little bit. There's like zero variety. It's like, oh, heretic, bang.
Unless they go chaos themselves, then there's a bit of an issue there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. Okay. Separate from them, though technically associated, but they're unique enough. I'll separate them. The assassin ordos. This is all of them though. This is like Vindicare, Exodus, Calidus, Caluxus.
S.
Well, I would say like between S and A. That's kind of where I'm sitting at.
I'd go with S.
Because, yeah.
All right.
There's definitely a few that I just, I really like the Vindicare. I love the Calidus, but
You don't like
not really
that? What's wrong with the Caluxus?
Caluxus. I don't want to be near that thing.
Yeah, but that's what's cool about them. Like when they're so fucking badass and cool that you're like, I don't want to be anywhere near that thing.
Yeah.
Or like an
I don't know.
Eversor. Like, what about an Eversor assassin?
Some
Some poor bastard that they just pump full of every kind of narcotic and like steroid drug, and then put him through psycho conditioning of the most horrific shit, and then they freeze him in time immediately after that in a stasis pod, and then just put him on ice until they drop him.
As great as it is to play freaking the 40k equivalent of Trevor from GTA 5, I can just play that instead. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, the Calyxus assassin never appealed to me because of that big derpy ass fucking helmet. Like that thing looks like it weighs a ton, and like he's constantly got neck problems.
It looks like a beehive to me from afar, kind of like it's just hanging off the neck.
Want me to ruin it for you forever? Marge Simpson's hair, but slicked back.
That's fair. That's fair. Does look like
Yeah.
it. I guess yeah, S tier.
Alright. I think well. I'll put them together in this just to finish off the Imperium. Custodes / Sisters of Silence.
S tier.
S.
Okay. I'd agree. So we can all agree at least they're S tier. Alright, so we're finished with the Imperium. We pretty much did because it's Chaos Demons and Chaos Space Marines. I think that's really it for Chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So Xenos, so Orcs. S.
S tier.
A.
S.
I think I know why A, so I won't make you elaborate. But fair. Right. So that makes that easy. Tau. For me it's D.
D. Yeah,
That's
it's
a flat D.
Flat D.
Solid D.
If you need,
Like
if you're
bottom.
watching this podcast, you need us to explain. You haven't watched the previous episodes.
Yeah.
Tau or D. Solidly.
What are
Okay.
you, some kind of towel lover? You got soft hands, boy.
There's a reason in the Space King animation from Flash Kits, they parodied them by having them be the race that gets fucking annihilated.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Tau, D. Drakari.
I'd go with B, the mid. They've got a lot of issues, but they've got a lot of potential. Like, I do like the lore behind them, but I don't think a lot gets done with them anymore.
I'd go with
B.
C.
Mm.
I'll be a bit
I
more
just-
brutal than both of you. C.
Mm,
Because
that's
the
fair.
only thing I like is their aesthetic. I'm not a huge fan of the lore. I'm not a huge fan of the characters. And the aesthetic isn't so good that it makes up for that significantly for me, so I'd go with C. They're not as, like, bottom of the barrel bad as Tau, but when the only thing going for you is your aesthetic and it's not even, like, that mind-blowing, like, for me, it's, yeah, C.
Still better than Tau, though.
Still better than Tau. They actually belong in the setting. I'll give them that much.
Yeah. Mm.
Actually,
Oh,
I
next
put Votan in C. I'll put Votan down to D and leave Drakari at C. If I
Hey.
can do that.
That sounds
Okay.
safe. Yeah.
Next one.
Okay, next one. Craftable Dildar. Or just Dildari, I guess.
B.
I'd say A. That's an A.
B.
I mean, at least they actually have like I can get into the characters and like I can sympathize with their struggle trying to survive. But yeah, compared to humans, I prefer. Yeah.
For me, like the one thing that beats out the Drakari and C is it's more fun to watch the Eldari die. I'm joking. I'm joking. That's a trigger, Nathan. I think actually
You think me easily triggered, mister, but it was more telling of you, mister. The lack of lore.
the Drakari, like unlike the Drakari, I think there's more interesting lore personally with the Eldar. I think like with the Drakari, most of their shit is summed up around their obsession with just maintaining themselves in the galaxy, and they're totally cool with just doing more evil Slaneshi shit. So they really just kind of plateau with their lore. So again, it comes down to aesthetic most of the time with the Drakari for me. But at least with the Eldar, like their aesthetic, it does not appeal to me at all. But I think it belongs in 40k. It feels like it fits. So I can't knock them for it. And for their lore, I think they have a lot more interesting characters than the Drakari do, like individually. Like as much as like we meme about her being like the waifu of Gilliman, even though there's like no lore supporting it. Yvraine is kind of interesting. She's a total bitch. I don't like her, but she's kind of like Cersei Lannister in that sense from Game of Thrones. You kind of love to hate her. And I know a lot of like Yvraine fans are gonna be out for my blood for doing that comparison, but you can suck my dick. I don't like her. I'm not saying like 1-to-1 she's like Cersei, but in the regards for me of like I dislike her, but I love to hate her. Like she's an Eldar, right? At the end of the day, like she's got the Eldar like up like personality, where she's like the monkeys and shit.
Monkey.
So yeah, like and she's like maybe not the best example to use, but like the one that immediately came to mind because unfortunately the memes rule. So, but like the point is, unlike the Drakari, I feel like they have more characters that are interesting, and they have been involved more directly in some more interesting events than the Drakari. So I'd put them like one tier ahead because the lore kind of helps them out, and aesthetically, though I don't like the aesthetic, it does belong in 40k and it feels like it fits the setting. So I'd put them a bit above Drakari in that sense. So let's see. We already did Leagues of Votann earlier, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
That leaves Tyranids.
S.
A.
Shit, I'm kind of torn between S and A. I kind of want to go to A because they have like no lore, but that's kind of the point. So kind of back to S.
I mean, it's always fun to destroy bugs. I mean, Helldivers.
I'll go with S because they're kind of again. It's the point is that they don't have lore because they're supposed. That's part of what makes them scary in the setting, right? Like we don't know where they're from, why they're here. It's all speculation. It's kind of like the theories around like the 2nd and 11th legions of Space Marines. Like the mystery is kind of the point of them. Like if it got revealed their motivations and all that, it would kind of ruin the lore aspects about them.
Yeah, so
And aesthetically, as well as like the stories around them, less so about them, but around them within the setting. Like they're pure 40k in terms of belonging, in terms of their horrific elements, and aesthetically they're fucking brilliant. So yeah, I'd say S tier.
fair enough.
And I think the only thing left is Necrons, unless I'm forgetting something.
Necrons.
I think you did forget one.
What I forget?
but I can't think off the top of my head which one it was.
We did Orcs,
Okay,
we did Eldar, we did Drakari, we did Tau, we did Leagues of Votann, and now we're doing Necrons. Who am I forgetting?
Don't. Hmm.
Probably not. I don't know.
She knows.
I don't
I'm,
know. If it's the fact that none of you can call me on it, if we are, says a lot about that faction that we're forgetting.
Yeah.
What?
If
No,
none
we're
of
not
us,
forgetting
if
any.
none of us can think of it, that's a terrible sign.
So Necros then. B.
Ooh. I'd go with
A.
A.
I'd go with A.
Yeah. They're a pretty tidy faction, you know. They've got a healthy amount of lore, you know. I do like their aesthetic, you know, the weapons that they have as well. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. For me, like, I love the aesthetic, love the weapons, love the lore. I just don't love any of those things more than the other S tiers. So yeah, I'd put him in A tier, high A tier, almost S.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just I don't know. Maybe I'm just not that big into Terminators, but yeah.
Wow. How can you not like Terminators?
Oh, I did forget a faction, but it wasn't Xenos. It was Mechanicum.
Canicus.
She's a pretty
That's
big
what I
one
was
to
thinking
forget.
of. Yeah.
Uh,
I'll put them in A.
yeah, it feels like a safe bet.
S for lore, A for aesthetic. Keep in mind, like everyone like who's listening to the podcast, keep in mind this tier list goes from S to D. So like all these debates we're having between A and S. Keep in mind, it's like it's a debate between near perfect, love them to death, to love them to death, just not perfect. Like that's been each of the debates between S and A. So before anyone gets on our butts about that, keep that in mind. Like anything we end up putting in A, even though we might sound like, you know, like, oh, it's a downgrade, it's like one notch below perfect. So I'd say A. Yeah, like I love the Mechanicum a lot. Like they have some of my favorite moments in lore. I really love the technophile aspect to them. It feels very unique and they're super lovable. I think my only like real notch to them is like the physical models and like on the tabletop are a bitch to paint
Oh yeah.
because they have a shit ton of like minute details and components. Especially like if you ever like, I never intend to collect them, but I've seen the model and seen what it takes to assemble them. If you pick up a Belisarius call model,
Oh, I've seen that.
that guy's a bitch to assemble, let alone paint.
That guy looks like it looks like it would take you like 6 months just to finish it.
Yeah, like as much as it is a hell and a half to assemble a Stompa, and a Stompa's bigger than Call's model is, but Call's model's got so many little details to it. Like every time I look at the finished model, like just look at the staff. Like if you guys look up the model, look at the staff. Look at all the little chords, little you know notches and details. That's a bitch. That's artwork, Nico. Like I'm talking like look at the
Jesus.
model.
Yeah,
look at the
just
model.
give it. Yeah, hang on. I'm gonna look at the model. Yeah, but just getting the artwork because somebody gonna look at that. Here's the model.
Yeah, like that. There's so many little details just on the staff. Like the rest of them. Oh my god. Yeah, like
That feels like it's too much. Like
it's
trying
too
to do
much.
too much.
It
It's
really
busy.
is. This is a good example of a model that has too many details, because he's also not that big. Like the Stompa having a shit ton of details makes sense because it's huge. But also, if I'm not mistaken, that base that he's on isn't that only like a 50 millimeter?
Fuck if I know.
50
The
millimeter.
faintest clue.
I think he's the same size as Gilliman. Hold on, let me look up a size comparison.
Which is ironic because I thought it was supposed to be taller.
No, he's only slightly bigger than a... Yeah, see, he has way too much detail, because he's only a little bit bigger than a standard Space Marine. He is bigger than one. Like, a full, like, Primaris Marine fits on his base while he's still on it. But that being said... I don't know, is there a better size comparison? But, like, next to a standard Space Marine, he's only, like... he's the size of a Primaris Intercessor and a half in terms of his size. So he's only a little bit taller. I don't think he's quite the size of Gilliman, but he's almost as big as Gilliman. Trying to see if there's a better size comparison for him somewhere. I mean, next to standard Skatari, he's pretty huge, but I think each of them are the size of a guardsman. So that's not saying much. Does anyone put him next to Gilliman? I don't want to scroll forever. But yeah, using the Intercessor example, though, he's almost as big as Gilliman, if not slightly smaller.
I think you've gone on a tangent. We were only just listing off the factions.
Yeah, but my point is, though, like, model-wise for the Mechanicus,
Yeah.
Call's a good example, and there are several like him. The factions got way too many minute details on their models to paint, and they're a bitch to assemble as well because of that. So, yeah, tabletop-wise, that's what brings them down, to me, to A tier. If their model... Don't get me wrong, I love their models. It's just, like, on a personal thing. Like, I could not do all those little details. I'd have an aneurysm.
I feel like the model itself could almost give you, like, carpal tunnel with all the small movements you have to do. It's just like...
And... I think the last faction would be the Imperial Knights. Even though we technically could have included them with the Mechanicus or with...
I mean...
we'll do them separately.
Yeah, because to be fair, the Imperial Knight is why I gave the Mechanicum an A.
Oh, they're why you gave them an A? So if you take them, if you separate them from the Mechanicum, what do you give the Mechanicum?
B.
B? Really?
Yeah.
Eesh. I still leave them at A, even without them.
I would think A.
I don't know.
Because Imperial Knights just look awesome.
I recommend, Nathan, you read the Mechanicum book to like, really... Because for me, if that alone gives them, like, an A status for, like, their lore.
Yeah, sorry, I would read the book, but I'm a zoomer. I don't read, so unless something's fed to me via unless something's fed to me via a TikTok video with Family Guy and a mobile gameplay in the background, I kind of don't care. Sorry.
Oh, did you take that personally?
Sorry.
You're like 25, 26. You're older than me.
Yeah, but you know, it's 25 years of Family Guy clips and mobile gameplay in the background.
Does that mean I'm the oldest one here, or?
Technically, yes.
I know you're 30.
Almost. Give it one more year, then I'll be 30.
My condolences, Nicho.
I mean, in 6 months, so half a year, I'll be 25.
Same age as me.
Yeah, I'm currently 24. Well, right. So I think that's all the factions. Well, no, we haven't actually said ours for the Imperial Knights on their own. Yeah, Imperial Knights on their own. I'd go.
Mine's still A.
I'd go.
I would think A.
I'm torn between A and B. I'd probably go A. Low A, high B. Because for me, their aesthetic, S tier. Lore. The detail of it and its appropriateness for the setting is really good, but they're kind of a bunch of douchebags. I mean, they really are. Like, if you look at... Like, that's why in my own fan fiction for why my Imperial Knight has, like, the Black Templar aesthetic to it, like, I really went out of my way to make, like, that, like, fanfic of my little knight over there and his, like, house really cool and less douchey. But, like, the knight houses... as characters, they're like knights, and that's like their whole thing. Like they're actually like knights, but to the point where they have a holier than thou, like noble sticking up their thumb to like the peasantry. Like they're douchebags. Like oh, I'm a knight. I serve as nobility. They speak in high Gothic, surrounded by low Gothic civilians, and they're just like talking down to each of them. Oh my, your filthy robes torn in front of me. Oh, how the Emperor would frown upon you. But I, as your great lord, will show leniency this one moment and ask you to repair your robes somewhere else away. And again, speaking in high Gothic to a low Gothic only speaking peasant who's staring at them like, what the fuck are you saying? Because they're too good to speak low Gothic. Like that's the knights typically. Like as cool as their job is, and sometimes it feels like they've earned the right to act that snooty. Because when you pilot a knight, right, and you pilot that bitch into battle, and if you win, and you come back and you still act like that, again, you're still a douche, but at least you earned it. You know, like you just fought off like a chaos horde, driving around in something the size of a small skyscraper. I mean, you've earned some praise, but damn, man, can you, like, tone it down?
No.
I don't know. That for me, that's what brings them down a little bit, is they're just kind of unlikable. Well, not unlikable. Again, if you could find that charming, I guess, that kind of holier-than-thou-ness. I don't know, I find it douchey and annoying, but that's me. But yeah. High B or low A.
I think that about covers it.
Yeah, I think that's everyone.
Yep.
Again, not including like subfaction of a subfaction of a subfaction.
That would take way too long.
All right. So that hopefully that answers your question, Pierce.
Okay. So the next question comes in from Voided Steel, and it is not a 40k related question. So he said, if you've seen it, thought on the Netflix remake of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I can't comment, but I've been hearing bad things about it. They tried, like, but I think they changed a few too many things, and it's not kind of true.
I didn't watch it on Netflix. You hardy Omaha. But from what I have seen, 2 episodes worth. In some ways, it's a better attempt than Shyamalan. But those ways are few and far between. I'm not impressed. And I would say there is zero reason to watch this show over watching the original, outside of your high, and really just need something to kind of turn your brain mostly off for.
I mean, at that point, you just watch a Michael Bay movie, but...
True. I mean, watching The Core, which I can't remember if that was Michael Bay or not, but like watching The Core or that Asteroid movie with the guys who were a drilling team. Can't remember that
Armageddon.
one. Armageddon, was that it? Like watch those high as fuck. I imagine that's kind of like if you're high on weed, you know, and all that shit's happening, I'm sure it would feel like the most epic adventure movies ever. Just like, whoa, man, like the asteroid is coming like right at the planet, man. Oh god, there's like holes in the road, dude.
Dude, do you remember? I don't know if you heard about this, but did you ever hear about how Michael Bay thought, no, astronauts cannot drill stuff. They're not drillers. And then Ben Affleck literally said, like, how the hell, like, why do you need to be like special about that? You just point the drill and then you start the engine. And Michael Bay literally was just like, shut the fuck up.
It's making too much sense, man. Shut up, it's my film.
God.
To be fair to the profession of drilling, well, I guess that's the thing is, when we talk about the profession, there's a shit ton of different kind of drillers.
To be fair to the profession of drilling, yes, our vast drilling community that's listening to the podcast
Well,
right
as
now.
I said-
Thank you for standing up for them.
As I said though, like it's to be fair to like that perspective that Michael Bay put in that movie. I know we're going off track, but let me say this. But to be fair to that, when it comes to like that specific, I mean, like there's arguments to be had for like an oil rig team, right? For like their approach at like drilling through the asteroid to fracture its stability and shit. Like there's shit there that you're like, okay, yeah, it would make sense to somewhat send these guys. But to be fair also to Ben Affleck, it's like how compared to learning how to go into space, what's more complicated? Teaching a bunch of oil rig drillers how to go into space and be astronauts, or teaching astronauts how to turn on a drill? What's a more complicated process? And given that they were limited on time, yeah, that's kind of like, again, I think there's a conversation to be had there, but I do think it's pretty clear who should have gone and who shouldn't.
I think the most complicated thing is figuring out how the fuck we got onto this instead of like Avatar: The Last Airbender question.
I know, Avatar: The Last Airbender, the new show is so shit. This was far more entertaining.
Yes.
True. Okay. Yeah. Fair.
And I have not seen the Netflix adaptation, and I don't really see a point to it. Just watch the original.
Again,
it's there.
The nicest
Yeah.
thing,
Get the
nicest,
DVDs.
The nicest thing I could say about it is it's a slightly better attempt than M. Night Shyamalan's,
Oh.
but that's not saying much. Like,
No.
to give you an idea, if you've seen the original show, they took out Sokka's sexism arc. Like, him being like, oh, women, and then him learning over time, it's like, life's not that black and white, kid.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like that was a cool arc, right? And that was a good character flaw that
I
I
love
think,
that. I love like that's what you name it, soccer's sexism arc.
well, that's what it was. like
It was, yeah, but it just sounds funny when you name it like that.
Yeah.
it absolutely was. And one of the things as a young man watching the original Avatar: The Last Airbender is boys naturally, like, when you hang out with girls as a little kid, you naturally have an aversion to them.
Yeah, you're like, oh, girls, they're so
yeah,
gay.
like, there's like,
Cooties.
it's jokingly
And cooties, yeah.
But yeah, like as a young man, there's a little bit of that natural aversion. Now, obviously, as you get older, you look back and you realize that was just because, you know, we are very different between the genders, and young boys were trying to process our feelings about girls. And when you're little, you don't have the other kind yet, so you don't know how to like think of girls. So you're just like, ew.
Yeah.
But like as a young man, like once you start to, get a little bit older and those other kinds of feelings start to arise, processing them between that age of like, ew, gross girls, and damn, and like trying to like compartmentalize like how to think about them. I think that the original Avatar show, through Sokka's, like, again, lack of a better term, sexism arc, kind of helped young men a little bit think about it. It's like, okay, girls are like this, this, and this, but they can also be like this and this. And I don't know, I feel like a young man could watch that show and it can not exactly provide the answers, but get a young man thinking about women and realizing there's not so many differences that you can't be friends with them. You can't treat them the same as you would treat a male friend with maybe a slight difference. And again, there's stuff about that from the original show that through that character flaw that I think could help a young man like actually think about it and kind of come to a healthy mindset about women.
I'd
oh yeah, go ahead.
Like I said, I'd love if the other books were named do you know the way they're listed in the series, like book 1, water, book 2, earth, book 3,
Fire.
fire, fuck it, whatever. It's like book 1, sexism, book 2, racism, book 3, xenophobia.
Well, the ironic thing is, switch 2 of those, and that's technically the show.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how it went. Like a huge chunk of, well, I would say huge chunk, a portion of the storytelling that happened within the arc of like the first book was sexism, because it happened with Sokka in a pocket, like episode to episode, and then like he grew through it, and then at the very end of the season we go back to a water tribe that is very sexist, and the topics revisited again. I would say like through Sokka it was like a healthy exploration of it, and then like it kind of got annoying and almost preachy even in the original cartoon by the time like season 1 ended, but they kind of wrapped it up in a way that wasn't too intrusive, even by today's standards intrusive. Actually, if anything, especially by today's standards. And then like the second season, Earth, there was a lot of especially with the Ba Sing Se stuff, there was a lot of like the xenophobia and like you know, like being from elsewhere or being of the Fire Nation or of this particular group made you inherently bad or good. Or a little bit of that was explored more in Book 2, Earth. Again, not to any kind of obnoxious degree. And what was the third one you said? Sexism.
Xenophobia?
No, that was the one I just covered.
Racism. Wait, sexism, racism, xenophobia. Wasn't that was one of the 3 that you said, right, Nathan?
Yeah, with like book 1, racism, book 2. So that book 1, sexism, book 2, racism, book 3, xenophobia.
Okay, maybe racism wasn't covered. I don't remember that being done. I'll think anyway. I'm trying to think. Like, shit, was there racism in Avatar?
It was the isms, definitely.
Anyway,
It's assumed.
Jokes aside, though, great show.
Yeah.
Not the new one, the old one. Watch the old one. Don't watch the new one.
Oh, and just a little something for everyone. Get the DVDs or the Blu-rays. Just do it. Get them on physical. The thing is,
just like with your Dawn of War CDs, fucking preserve that shit and get out the hymns and the holy oils and the fucking candles and start humming that shit every night, blessing it with the spirit of the machine god.
I am very proud of you, gentlemen. Very
this
proud.
is how I would. Yeah, this is how I would treat my Teen Titans DVDs.
That made me come up with a joke, and I hope someone makes fan art of this. But imagine what's a Dawn of War LAN party? Well, it's a bunch of guys in red robes over their CDs, starting before they play a session, swinging back and forth the little incense necklaces and chanting hymns. It's like, we have come together, my brothers. Let us begin the worship. Pulls out Dawn of War, the Dawn of War copies, sets the discs in front of them. Ora mi da prati prostore Dawn of War. Ira spati carito purito smodro. Dima trascaba relic Dawn of War. Soulstorm is for chads.
Sounds like you've already nailed the chant down pretty well, Asmo. I'm very proud of you.
Would that not be a funny as shit visual of a Dawn of War LAN party?
Yes.
Yes.
Especially, it'd be a great comedy skit in a show, especially because they're all doing that, and all of a sudden the door swings open. Honey, did you and your friends want some drinks? Ma, we're getting ready for the LAN party.
Mom, shut up. We're having a 4v4 on Biffy's peril. Fuck off.
Okay, but let me know if you want chicken nuggies. Yes, Mom, of course we do.
I want some chimkim.
Chicken nuggies. Alright, I think we've answered Pierce's question. Was that it?
That wasn't Pyrrhus's, that was
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wow.
Nah.
That was Voided Steel.
I'm sorry, everyone is still I hope we answered your questions.
So, the last question, pretty simple one, is one of Havoc 1137's, and it's Gondor or Rohan?
Rohan.
Rohan.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Rohan's pretty cool.
Death.
Although I can see an argument made for Gondor, I'm not gonna lie.
The only argument I would accept for Gondor is the movie's chosen plate aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like that, but like in every other regard, nah, wrong.
Like keep in mind, like, we're answering this very basically. Like, if you want to, like, a Lord of the Rings deep dive into why each faction's good, this probably isn't the podcast for that.
Nah.
Unless you want to unless you want to bring Pyrrhus on the show one day.
I mean, bringing him on as a
could.
guest for that would be worth an episode. It would be so out
Yeah.
of left field, though. We would have to do that on a. We'd either have to do that on an April Fool's Day, if we record for an April Fool's, or we'd have to do that for Christmas, maybe. I don't know, like a weird Christmas special. It's like today we're taking a break from 40K to celebrate the holiday season with another spiritual classic. Lord of the Rings.
Wait
I
a
don't
minute,
know.
hang on. Isn't like March the 25th Tolkien Day?
I do know.
So to be fair,
March 15th
and it's
or
on
25th?
on 25th.
it's on a Monday.
Oh.
Who wants to bring this up to Pyrrhus first?
You can.
Alright, I'll toss it his way.
We are but simple co-hosts.
Oh,
We have no word in our saying.
We are just servitors.
Well, you're a servitor. He's actually, if we had to come up with like lore of like the artwork of this podcast, of like the Black Templar and the Blood Raven and the servo skull sitting around a table, I'm gonna say a Black Templar like this was a planet saved by the Black Templars, and he's just hanging out in a rubbled building where all that's left in a corner was a nice booth, and he's just cleaning off a blade from all the havoc. The Blood Raven showed up late and broke into the building where he's just chilling and just sits down and starts drinking tea while trying
We
to like
wanted-
steal some
We
shit
wanted
from
to
his
find.
pocket.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, that was the entire reason we came down. We just wanted to see if we could steal anything.
And then while all that was going on, a servo skull walked over with a guitar and was like, "Hey,
I'm
what's up?"
And like a random Ushanka just fell on his head.
I just playing music in the background. It's like, sir, would you like me to play a tune? Why did I sound British there? I don't know why.
40K. This makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, that does it for this episode of the VoxWork podcast. I'm gonna have so much fun editing this one. If you guys liked, be sure to leave a like. If you're interested in more, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And remember to check out Nicho and Nathan's channels, always linked to the pinned comment and in the description. My name has been Asmogan.
My name's been Nathan X2000.
My name's been Nico40K.
And we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.